Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our final round, round three for our purple red CB versus Chris's blue purple deck. That he took to a new type and won, and also on top of that, he also took this same deck pretty much to a store championship and got second place and got his invite to nationals. So we're playing against pretty much a very popular deck, very strong purple and blue aggro. Now this time, this final round, we are going to see a misplay, and I'm going to call the misplay out. It was something that Chris told me he wasn't sure if he did or not, and looking back, we did not catch it, and unfortunately, because of that, that could have cost him the game. So I'll go over the misplay in a little bit. We try to see if we can find like the judge to see. I don't think he heard us potentially, but we weren't too sure, and I'll explain it when we get to it. But we are going to go first because Chris wants to go second and rob me of my EX resource. So this deck, if you see my other videos, I can say that round one, going turn one isn't bad for this deck. It can deal with it, especially with the 2-1s. You can make it work. When you go to turn 3, you can make things work with the 3-1 Virtue and the Red Exia, or the Virtue and the Red Exia. With that, those 1-drops can be very helpful if you are going, second. I mean, first, my apologies, if you're going first. But if you're going second, the deck seems to be a little bit more consistent, and you can kind of play around the EX resource until when you really, really need it, which is typically around that 5 or 6 level. I typically tend to burn it around 5 or 6, and you're going to see when I... like if I had another resource, you'll see like I'm like, oh man, I wish I had one more. And there's times where again, that's why going second sometimes can be good. You just need to be able to play around it. So we went ahead and pound out for the game. Let's start off the match. Draw resource and draw and pass. There's no turn 1 play for this. His turn, he taps for 1 and he can immediately drop a gem, which already puts the body on the field. Passes to me, draw resource, and I draw. Now, I think, unfortunately, I didn't have anything to drop, so I went ahead and pass. He goes ahead and swing with his gem to swing at my base, and then he drops a Jagan on the field, and that was it. My turn. Draw resource, draw. And now this time I actually drew into the old Gundam, which was like, okay, that's not bad. That can work out. And this is the play I'm talking about. You can do the Exia because there's 2 units on my opponent's side. I can pop that, do 2 damage to that gem, which takes it out. And then I can then drop the old Gundam, which again, on turn 1, this is like a play like I would say that I can do. But I preferably would have liked to have gotten the old Gundam on the turn prior, but again, being able to just drop bodies early is what I'm trying to do. I know the red Gundam, the red Exia is okay. People like it because it has an effect, but people don't like that red Virtue. The reason why I'm doing the red Virtue, I believe it have it at 3, and I'll put a deck list in the description if I can. I'll put it in the pin comment as well. So I like that because it's still, I can early on just drop 1. That 1 resource can be very, very helpful when dropping. So he decides to burn his EX resource and drop an Adept in his first form. And he goes ahead and swing and breaks the base with the Jagan. Now, I know you see the EX resource. He didn't take it away. He does realize that on his turn when he comes up, when he realizes that he still has an EX resource that he burns. So that's not yet where the misplay is. I'll show you guys in a little bit. But now it is my turn. Now, these are the turns. Turn 4 and 5 are the turns I think are extremely important when it comes to aggro, because that's where you can make or break you. And we decide to do 4 and drop literally 2 of the Virtues. My hand early seems to be decent. I have the blockers, but they're not blockers right now because there's no CB pilot in play. This is just setting me up, keeping pace with his units, as many units as he has dropped. I'm trying to keep pace with it, and trying to see if we can get rid of it. Unfortunately, obviously, I wish I can get rid of the first form, but he still has it. As you saw, he was able to get rid of the EX resource and reset his turn. So now it is his turn. He has 4 resources to figure out what he's going to do. But turn 4 and 5, I think, are the most important turns against aggro. So he swings, then he hits a giant killing. I kind of wish this was a burst, even if it could be like Fatal Strike or burst 1 damage or something. Kind of sucks that it's just no burst, but the card is very powerful. But at the same time, you are also burning 3 resources. He swings with his Adept, hits a red Virtue. And then he swings with the Jegan, which then pops the base, gives me the card added to hand, which is really nice because now that was definitely slowed down him on the board. So he goes ahead and drops Corsica, giving him the token. I remind him, hey, don't forget your token, and he said yes, thank you. So he got the token out, and he I think has 1 more resources to tap for something. And he taps for a graze. Now, with that being said, as you see, he's starting to flood the board. With that being said, on my turn, we're going to turn 5, and I believe we do have Eyes in our hand, and I just need to survive until turn 6. So in that scenario, I'm going to go ahead and drop the purple Exia, which allows me to destroy his Toggies. Again, really amazing card that gets rid of the gun tanks. Zaku 2 with the 1 AP that buffs itself up during an attack. So I like this card. I've been holding on to it, and that's what last turn I didn't want to drop that with the 1 blocker. That's why instead of dropping the 2 virtues, I was gonna do the purple Exia. But it was better this way. I'm glad we did it that way. So we used the old Gundam to take out his first form. That was a good trade just to make sure we get that first form out the way. And then we go ahead and swing and take out the Jegan because we can live by 1 HP. It puts me in territory to get pinged and take out, but it's still really worth to go ahead and do that. Now, this is when I start to contemplate, because again, we are trying to match his board, but at the same time, also be able to control it just a little bit. So we're trying to figure out resources. We're trying to figure out how many cards are in each other's hands. We're trying to figure things out. So this is when, again, turn 4, turn 5 is probably the most important turn against an aggro player. And for me, this is where you're going to see me really try to think and use the little brain power I have in my brain cells to really think of a play to kind of slow this down as much as possible. Because the only unit that can smack this base right now is the Adept. Now, if he puts a unit, if he puts a pilot on the Adept, and then he has Gundam or whatever, he'd be able to get over the base. So we're trying to minimize getting the Adept to get any damage on the base. So, and on top of that, I don't have a blocker technically. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap for 1, and we're going to be able to put out a pilot to make it a blocker by putting the pilot on the Exia that I just dropped, allowing me to link and then pump it up and swing and take out the Adept. So I take 2 damage, and I only have 2 damage left, which makes me easy to be taken out by a couple pings or even his Grace custom that he has there as well. We're gonna then pass. Try to remember to put the little marker on there to how many cards I have. So he can do 2 pings, but he has a couple units to worry about here. I have a blocker that if he pings, he's going to leave a couple of these units that are just barely alive to take out something. So it's either take out the Exia with the Cessna, which he's asking how much health is left on there. I'm telling there's 2 left on to there. And obviously there's 1 on the Virtue and 1 on the blocker Virtue as well. So he's trying to figure out what the best play is going to be. I think in this scenario, I think he drops a Anksha to, the Anksha, and he wants to take out the actual, I believe, blocker. He takes out the blocker. That's 1 less blocker on the field. So I'm just counting the cards, how many we have in the grave, because I want to make sure we are counting them because it's going to be very important. I believe I saw that I had Trans Am in my hand, and I just want to make sure I'm covered. So he does show a resolve and draws. And I think he decides to go ahead and swing and take out my Exia. But this is when I asked him, hey, how many resources do you have left? He says, I have none. I'm tapped out. I said, perfect. That means you can't drop a gun tank. So I'm going to go ahead and block this hit. If he had a gun tank, I would let that swing go by because it's not worth having the one and then be able to take out a blocker. So in this scenario, allows me to keep all my units up and alive. And now here's my misplay that affects me specifically coming up. And then you're going to see a misplay onto Chris for him as well soon as well. But for me, just to let you guys know, like looking at his mat and his base, that nice full art Corsica, I did not tell that there was a base out on the field. So in my normal move, I would have swung with Exia first and with the Cessna to break that base and then swing with the other units. Here I'm just counting my graveyard. Just want to make sure how many I have. I have 4. Okay, so we need to be able to get a couple. I need to see to get the buff for Cessna and stuff like that. I mean, you know what? I think we're going to go ahead and just break the base. I'm thinking in my head, I'm just going to go ahead and swing for shields. But I didn't realize he had a base. Now, we just talked about my base, how it's a misplay if they attack and they said, oh, I take no damage. Oops. And I'm like, oh, wait, you have a base? And he's like, yep, I have a base. I'm like, I didn't know you had a base. He's like, yep, I have a base. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to take it back. That's my fault for not looking. It is really tough. The mat in the card looks I don't know, maybe my eyes deceive me, but in the match, it was really tough to see it. But in normal circumstance, if there was a base, I would have smacked with the Exia, break it, and then swung with the 3-1 Virtue instead. But in this case, we're going to have to do it the other way around. We're just going to be able to go ahead and swing with the Virtue, break the base, which wasted 2 swings. Again, I think if I would have saw that base, I would have swung the other way and break it with the unit. So we dropped the Curios without the without the Curious LR, without the Hallelujah Pilot. And we're trying to figure out what to do. And I think we're going to pass here. So we pass and we have 4 cards in hand. Excuse me, we have 4 cards in hands. So now Anksha can hit the base for only 3. He can take out a unit if he wanted to. I think in this circumstance, if Exia was turned sideways, it would have been the better move to take out the Exia. But in this scenario, I did not. And again, I would have kept the blocker up because you never know what could happen. If they decide to swing, you can kind of trade a little bit differently and keep that unit up. Because again, Cessna's effect, you gain a buff for 7 CDs in the graveyard. So I'm trying to keep Cessna alive so that I can keep that buff whenever I swing so that it can maybe trade in my favor. So he decides to ping, and this is when the misplay happens. He decides to pings my unit, pings himself, and then he pings my unit. I'm asking him which one he wants to ping just to confirm because both Virtues are 1 HP. He decides to go after the blocker. And the misplay that you're going to see here is he drops Gun Tank to get rid of the other unit. And both of those units are turned sideways. So now he would be able to actually swing with his unit, the first form. So when he swings and hits the base, I was only paying attention to my field because I was picking up the card and putting it to the graveyard. But what ends up happening is he forgets to actually draw with first form, which you're going to see it's going to be very important that he does that. So he breaks the base, and I'll put the card down, and I didn't see if he drew because he shuffled his hand. He shuffled the field just a little bit. So I thought he drew, and I didn't think anything of it. So in this scenario, again, very important when it going against a blue-purple player is when they decide to commit. If they decide to commit, to the field is when you drop your Eins. So he's swinging, and I said, "Hey, you just dropped that gun tank." He's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot my buy." So I'm just counting the graveyard, and we have exactly 8 in the graveyard. And this is very important because the next play I'm going to do is very important too. So now he's committed. You see the commitment, and you know what I say when it comes to Eins. When he's fully committed is when you need to be committed too. In this scenario, you're going to see we drop the Eins now that we know that everyone is committed to the field. And I'm also going to do, I call it a big brain play coming up, and at least in my personal opinion when it comes to the deck. So I'm trying to figure out, I got a bunch, but I want to make sure I maximize who I'm going to turn sideways with the Eins. So we are trying to figure things out resources wise. Okay, I got exactly 7. Now keep in mind with 7 exactly, I'll be able to actually do, whatchamacallit, I am able to go Trans Am if I decide to crash my unit with my Exia. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I think, you know what? If I had Trans Am, that would be great, which I think I do, but you need to take care of the board. And this is where you have to, go through and just commit. So we go ahead and turn both these units sideways and do all damage to all the level 6 and lower, just 2 damage. So everything on his field pretty much just got blown up, which is, again, very, very awesome. This is why I love Eins in this deck. Now he only has 1 unit and I have 1 shield. So unless he has a link, that is the reason why I was like, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this play. It is my only really good play because what sucks is I don't have a Virtue. If I had a Virtue 3-2 blocker, I would feel a little bit better even if he drew into a Mika. But if he drew into a Gundam Amuro, then I'm kind of screwed. So I believe there's nothing much that I can do here. But I decide, you know what? Just in case, I think we decide to do something here because I'm trying to figure out, like, he can do something here on his turn that can really make it bad for me. So I decide to not do it. And you're gonna see me do it next turn instead. So it's his turn. He goes ahead and swing and goes for shield, and it is our day. So he gave me a pilot to hand, and I asked if he had Link. He said nope. I think he had, Graze. And then there was a couple more things he does here, I believe, if I remember correctly. Nope, that was it. So I think he's trying to I think he's waiting for one of his key pieces. And so now, remember what I mentioned before, that we had exactly 8 in the graveyard? Well, with that being said, I'm going to do something silly. I'm going to recount. I have exactly 8. In the normal circumstance, Kyrios is a first striker with 1 AP, so I could have taken out his Anksha and just lived because it only had 1 HP left. But I decided to crash my Exia with the pilot, which sounds silly to do, which, by the way, keep in mind, it does buff all my units. I've also informed him on that, so all my units now have 1 extra AP. But I did that on purpose because now it allows me to make my Trans Am live. So we go ahead and drop Trans Am, which now he only has 1 unit on field, which makes it so much easier to take out. So we go ahead and do the pair and the Cessna. Now this is a gamble here, and I'm saying, you know what, we're just gonna gamble, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and suppress and see what you get. Now he, I believe, needed the Gundam, which I think he's like, oh, I need that. So I just told him that we have exactly 10 to go ahead and pop his Gray's Custom. And with that, I have 1 resource left, and I think I had another turn coming that I can drop more stuff. So with that being said, I wanted to just have all my resources for next turn, because I think I had a play for next turn. So my play would require all my units. So I decided to put the pilot onto, I think, Kyrios right here. I think I had another Trans Am to pop, and I think a blocker or something. I had something. I had a play that I needed all my resources, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and drop this now, but I'm not going to swing. because I don't want to give him a pilot. I can't take the gamble and give him the last missing piece. Maybe he has a pilot and he needs a Gundam, because I heard he said, "Oh man," and I just didn't know if he needed a Gundam or if he needed the armor array. So I don't know what he actually needed. So I didn't want to give him the pilot. So he does show a resolve, and this is why it's extremely important that he drew that one turn before, because he doesn't get what he wants, but he does draw. Guess what? Into another show of resolve you're gonna see here, and I'm like, wow, double show of resolve. So he draws into it. He's like, I won't have enough resources if I do that though, but he's gonna go ahead and dig a little bit further to see maybe he can get another possible out into something, maybe a base or something, and he does not unfortunately see it, what he needs. Again, he only has 2 resources, and I believe he mentions to me, oh wow, yep, I just got what I needed, but unfortunately can't do nothing. So he asked me how much HP and AP that is, my unit. I said right now currently he is a 3, but when you turn any of my units sideways, he would actually be 7. So I just had to explain what my APs and HP were, all my units, because he was curious to see what they were. But that is definitely what's going to cost him here. He decides to use Adept to ping, and he decides to ping on one of my Eins, and I believe he decides to say, you know, I'm going to hope and pray for my shield area. So we go ahead and I think we suppress and then try to finish off. Again, if I would have swung with Exia, I would have been one closer to lethal, possibly one turn sooner potentially, but it could have turned out differently. And I'm glad I didn't swing, because look at that. That was what another piece he needed, was a Mika and an armor array. So I'm glad we didn't do that, because that would have given the missing piece. Now allows me to go ahead and pop his Adept, which then allows me to do one more swing to see if I can finish this off. And I do. It is another pilot, and we go ahead and swing, and that was it. Red Purple CBs took the win.